This story was told by a relative of mine. His name was Yong, a doctor who worked at the town's dispensary. On that day, a man named Zen from the village came to see Dr. Yong for treatment. He claimed to have a tumor on his shoulder that was causing him pain, but what was even more frightening was that he claimed to hear the tumor conversing with him. Dr. Yong felt strange and asked Zen to remove his shirt so he could examine him. He had hallucinations because of his fear, but there was no such thing as a talking tumor. There was in fact a large tumor the size of a tennis ball on Zen's shoulder, which appeared to be very frightening at first glance. Dr. Yong thought it was just a flesh tumor at first glance, so the disease diagnosis was normal. Following that, he simply prescribed Zen some anti-inflammatory and swelling-reducing medications. Dr. Yong silently watched Zen's back as he took the medicine and left the clinic. He was aware that this man was infamous in town for being worthless and committing heinous crimes. It was best not to mess with him. The next day, while Dr. Yong was examining a sick woman, Zen rushed in and pushed open the door to find him. He appeared to be in a lot of pain because of the tumor on his shoulder. His trembling hands squeezed the tumor and his face was contorted and sweaty. In this situation, Zen begged Dr. Yong to heal him and relieve his pain as soon as possible. Dr. Yong also attempted a quick examination of the woman, followed by an examination of Zen. When confronted with Zen's excruciating pain, Dr. Yong couldn't help but wonder if he took medicine or not.
Doctor, I not only took it in time, but I also took twice as much medicine to make the disease go away, but it hurts more and more, said Zen.
Dr. Yong also gave up on him, but he took off Zen's shirt again to check the progress of that fleshy tumor. Dr. Yong was shocked and felt cold at the first glance of the tumor. Because the tumor doubled in size in just one day, and the surface of the tumor also faintly outlined a human face that appeared quite frightening. Because Dr. Yong had never seen these symptoms before, he had no idea how to treat it. Following that, he advised Zen to go to a specialized hospital for examination and treatment. Zen, on the other hand, seemed to find something hard to say and refused to go to the specialized hospital as well. Zen now feared that Dr. Yong would think he didn't have any money and refused to treat him. He rummaged through his pockets for money in the hope of being treated. He took a large sum of money from his pocket and presented it to the doctor. Zen would pay any amount as long as Dr. Yong agreed to treat him. When Dr. Yong saw the large sum of money, he became suspicious of Zen. Because he was an unemployed, poor man who couldn't even afford to buy food. As a result, this sum could only be obtained by breaking the law. Faced with large sums of money, Dr. Yong dared not accept Zen's treatment because he had no idea how to treat it at all. However, Dr. Yong has seen similar cases in his practice, and the cause was infection. Dr. Yong immediately inquired as to what Zen had done to become infected. Zen immediately expressed confusion and concern and then stammered that he had done nothing wrong. Dr. Yong continued to question Zen and express concern, but Zen refused to tell the truth. He quickly took back the money and adjusted his shirt and exited without saying anything else. Based on Zen's reaction, Dr. Yong could conclude that he did something bad to get this disease. After 3 days, Zen did not return to the clinic. Late at night, as Dr. Yong was about to close the door and go to sleep, someone came looking for him. There was a pounding on the door as if there was an emergency. Because Dr. Yong was the only doctor in the small town, he frequently saw patients who needed immediate medical attention. He rushed to open the door for the patient without hesitation. Unexpectedly, the person who knocked on the door was Zen, who appeared to be unable to bear this pain any longer. He couldn't keep calm and rushed to grab Dr. Yong's shoulder, his face flushed with fear. He then knelt and begged Dr. Yong to remove the tumor because he couldn't take it any longer. When Zen noticed the doctor was not responding, he burst into tears and begged the doctor to try to save him. Dr. Young felt sorry for Zen and invited him into the house, where he asked him to remove his shirt and examined him. The tumor on Zen's shoulder had grown very large at this point, and above it was a very clear and frightening human face. At this point, Dr. Young advised him to tell the truth in order to determine the root of the problem and develop an effective treatment. After being questioned repeatedly by the doctor, Zen began to hesitate and stuttered the truth. Zen finally admitted that the disease was caused by a corpse scratching him on the shoulder. He also began to explain the reason, saying that he didn't have enough money to buy alcohol, so he had to find a part-time job to make ends meet. While hoeing the field, Zen unintentionally dug up some buried bricks. When Zen noticed this, he continued to dig and clear the surrounding soil. A large block of bricks revealed on his sight. Zen discovered a cellar below after attempting to extract the brick from the ground. He couldn't help but become excited and bent down to see what was beneath. Below, it looked like an ancient tomb, completed with an old coffin and a few broken jars. Because it was dark inside, Zen had to shine a flashlight and descend to the tomb via a wooden ladder. The tomb was about 3 or 4 square meters wide, with nothing notable other than a few old vases. A piece of board was placed in the center, and the top was covered with a layer of straw and an old cotton blanket. Zen came closer, a happy smile on his face, because there was a dry hand in front of him with a very bright and beautiful jade bracelet on it. Knowing the bracelet was valuable, Zen approached and removed it from the corpse's hand. When illuminated by a flashlight, the bracelet emitted such a beautiful turquoise light. Zen was overjoyed and stuffed the rope into his pocket. He also thought that if he sold the bracelet, he would definitely make a lot of money. He was eager to climb out of the grave when he suddenly felt someone behind him. The corpse had already stood up, then approached Zen and grabbed his shoulder with a hand to pull him back. Zen was so scared. He pushed the hideous thing away and quickly climbed out of the grave. When he got home, he suddenly felt that his shoulder was very painful, and when he checked again, he found many large scratches. Then the scratches began to spread, swollen and redden. Zen honestly told all the details without daring to hide a word, just hoping the doctor could quickly cure him. Dr. Young was shocked to hear that. He did not believe that corpses could stand up on their own and know how to injure people. Seeing that the doctor did not say anything, thinking that he didn't want to help, Zen once again bowed his head and begged. Dr. Young rushed to help Zen up and said that although he couldn't cure Zen's illness, he knew someone who could. The doctor immediately told Zen to go home and wait for him to find someone who could help him. Zen immediately returned home, and Dr. Young had to scour the town in the middle of the night to find someone he thought could cure Zen's illness. The person found by Dr. Young was a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. This man had also previously treated a variety of strange diseases. Dr. Young was concerned that Zen would be unable to bear it, so he urged the old doctor to go faster. When the doctor arrived at Zen's house and knocked on the door several times but received no response, he immediately tried to push it with his hand and discovered that the door wasn't locked. Dr. Young walked inside with the old doctor and called out to Zen, but he didn't respond. Dr. Young had a bad feeling in his heart. As he guessed, the smell of blood hit him as soon as he pushed the door open. There was a large pool of blood on the ground, as well as a corpse and a sharp knife. Zen was dead, and a large chunk of flesh had been gouged out of his shoulder. Zen removed the tumor on his shoulder by himself because it was too painful. The strange thing was that the tumor's face had been completed and was even clearer than 3 hours ago. It even had a strange smile. They'd both been practicing medicine for a long time, but the feeling of discomfort and nausea they got when they saw the scene was indescribable. After Zhen's death, Dr. Yang summoned the police to remove Zhen's body. They also searched the area where Zhen discovered the tomb but found no strange traces, so the case and illness remain unexplained.